All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
Bear with us one moment while we check the feed to ensure that we are live and rolling.
Kind of good.
God. Hey, Shalom once again. It's the Brothers of Great Millstone Charlotte coming at you with another live lesson through the spirit, power, and mercy of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, and before we get started with this live lesson, as always, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Rukakodash. Double honors, as always, to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and rule well. Peace, blessings, and mercy to the house of David. Habayafta Wadali, hopeful elect. Unto you we say Shalom. All
Shalom.
right. Start with that precept.
God. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse 1. It reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the high tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and
Mm-hmm.
what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry.
Right. Hey, and that vision that was foretold, right, by the prophets, the men of old, and the prophets that you hear on the highways and hedges today, starting with our head apostles and elder bishops on down, are echoing the same sentiments of what? Wars, evils, pestilence, famine, death, destruction.
Mhm.
These are the things that were to come about in the last days, pursuant to biblical prophecy. And what we wanted to focus on in particular today was the aspect of the upcoming famine. Okay. In the midst of all the folly and distractions, right? There's a major storm preparing to come about all of the people. The inability to get food as you are able to. All right. Matter of fact, let me grab that right quick as well. Because in the midst of all of these things, what you see on the screen is what's drowning out the minds of the people, right? Stupidity, right? So this is the book of Ecclesiastes 10 and 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low places. Okay. And the point being the folly, right? The foolishness is highly esteemed, right?
Mhm.
Let's read this headline. It says, if people rioted over a video game console, what will happen when there isn't enough food to go around? Okay. So there was an incident I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of where this YouTuber, Kai Cenat, had pretty much told people that he would be giving away free PS5 consoles, gaming consoles, and shit. And it incited a riot in Union Square in New York City, right? Now, here it is in the midst of all of these things, as we spoke of, right, that are beginning to brew the famine, the death, the destruction, calamities, right? This is what the mind of the people is consumed with, man, right? Because they're still in this state of complacency. All right. There hasn't really been anything to really incentivize people to ramp up. But if the point that this article is making and that we're making is if these riots are incited so simply over a gaming console, how much more when somebody can't eat? How much more when somebody doesn't have the means to go out to the grocery store and they see you do? Okay. You have a precept or anything?
Come on, let's get this in this second Ezra 15.
Con.
And starting in verse 15, it reads, I'll start in 14. It reads, Woe to the world,
Matter of fact,
they that love.
start up a little bit more. Start up at like I think 11.
God. It reads, second Ezra 15 and 11. I'll start in 10. It says, "Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt,
Mm-hmm. Now
but I will
people are
bring."
sent as a flock to the slaughter, man. Right?
Mhm.
Look at who's their leadership, man. Look at what's consuming the minds of our people. Right? Here it is that this great shift in this new world system is preparing to come about. And our people are consumed with foolishness, man. They're literally being led into a slaughterhouse, right, to take that implantable device, which is the MOTB, which will then in turn make you liable to partake in the second death.
Yep.
You read
And the
it?
scriptures say that shepherds caused them to go astray. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're seeing with the majority of our people. They're being led astray by, these so-called leaders. Whether it be these influencers, these entertainers. People who ultimately have no wisdom. And and the so-called wisdom that they do have is rooted, in the ways of this world, right? It's not
Yep.
wisdom that can, profit them in these coming days of destruction, right? It
Con.
reads,
Salakia, could you jump up to verse 5?
okay, this is Second Ezra chapter 15, and it's verse 5. It reads, "Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction."
Right. This is what the Lord is preparing to bring. Okay.
Hmm.
It's not a matter of if, right, but a matter of when, as we have read first in Habakkuk, the second chapter. Though it tarry, wait for it, it will surely come to pass. All right. So
Right,
these famines, they're coming. All right. Along with the riots, where people are going to be beating, punching people in the face, punching kids in the face, throwing babies over, trying to get to their food, because these are the rambunctious people that are out here, man.
right,
All right. Self willed, foolish, uncontrollable, right? No patience. Keep reading. Jump down, actually, jump back to verse 11, and then you could jump down to verse 14.
okay. Second Ezra 15 and verse 11. "But I will bring them with a mighty hand, and stretch their arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will
Hmm.
destroy all the land thereof."
Right. And it said it will smite Egypt. The Lord will smite Egypt with the plagues as before. All right. And this is letting us know that this is speaking of spiritual Egypt, pursuant to the book of Revelations, the 11th chapter. Right.
Hmm.
Spiritual Sodom, spiritual Egypt. All right. This is Babylon the Great, America, that's being spoken of here, man.
That's right. Say jump
So
down
we
to
saw
14.
we
Oh,
saw how Egypt
right.
went out in a terrible fashion. And that's the same fate of Babylon the Great, America.
That's
Right.
right.
Keep reading.
Jumping down to verse 14, it reads, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For there
And that's
shall..."
speaking of
Mhm,
that's speaking of that sedition. Okay.
mhm,
And that sedition, right, is multifaceted. Right.
right.
Reread that once more.
Second Ezra 15 and verse 14, or verse 15 is like it. "For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one
Mm-hmm.
people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands."
Right. These this stirring up of division and sedition again is gonna come in different forms, man. Right? The
Mhm,
race riots, right? As well as famines,
right.
right? Invading one another, right? As it goes on to say. You keep reading.
Verse 15, or verse 16 is like it. "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power."
Right. Nobody's going to be listening to dignitaries, Nobody's going to care what politicians have to say in that moment because at that point it's a dog eat dog world, right? As the brother Kwanawaf speaks of often, right? These social constructs or contracts that people abide by in a functioning society, when a society collapses, all of that shit gets tossed out the window,
Right.
right? Now you just fighting for your own salvation, right? You just thriving off of instinct at that point,
Hmm.
you know?
That's it. Hey, you think the governor of New York, is going to be able to control a unruly multitude like this, after they
Right,
haven't eaten for a few days, you know, this is just over some fucking video game console, right?
exactly.
Imagine if it's the last bit of food left in the city, right? These are just some kids, Imagine the masses of the city, right? These people aren't gonna care about these police officers. They're not gonna care about the National Guard troops. They're not gonna care about whatever government officials, come to try to obey them, and to keep them what's the word in check,
That's
right?
right.
They're gonna whatever they think to do, whatever their flesh, whatever they get told to act is what they're gonna be doing, man.
That's right. Hey, and like the brother Quanawaf has said, look, this is just off of a video game console.
Hmm.
They're going to these lengths to cause riots in the street in a functioning society. How much more when all of this shit just goes to hell?
Right.
The chaos that these Edomites, that the ruling class, elite Edomites are preparing to bring down, right, is going to be hardcore, man. And ultimately, it's really how about Shem Shai at the end of the day.
Hmm. Okay.
You keep reading, read down to verse 19.
Okay. Continuing on, 2 Ezra 15 and verse 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able,
Mm-hmm.
for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid.
Mm-hmm. Right. This great pride that people took in this quote unquote modern society, right? Detaching themselves from the path of righteousness and seeking after the lust of the flesh, right?
Mhm.
All of that shit is going to be done away with at that moment, man. Okay? As the scriptures tell us, what? Pride goeth before destruction. So them continually carrying on in this wickedness, not repenting, right? As the scriptures say, what do? They roughly paraphrase and exalt their sins as Sodom.
Mhm.
Okay, all of this shit, the Lord finna check that, man.
God, God, continuing on. 2 Ezra 15 and verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil
Hmm.
their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation.
And that's the point. That's it right there, man. This word is faithful and true. This is biblical prophecy, man. That
Hmm.
we see being sized up. All right, the famine, the oncoming famine. Right. It says that people will be invading, right, and destroying houses with the sword, man. What's the modern day sword? The gun.
Right.
All right. People are literally going to be kicking in doors, right? Yanking up people, killing them to get the
Hmm.
food, right? Along again with other reasons that people are
Right.
going to have just to mow down one another, right?
Hmm. Man, you gotta think, man. The lack of bread is gonna drive people to do things, that you wouldn't even imagine, man. Right? The scriptures talk about how we're gonna go into times that the earth has never seen before. Right? It's you might see a group of people like this, even a couple hundred people, right? And somebody they haven't eaten for however many days, they find somebody just walking, roaming through the street and just rip them to shreds, man. Because they haven't eaten. Because fucking cannibalism is gonna come back in a major way, man. Right? All these things. as the brothers has the article pulled up, right? You see how unruly these people are over, minuscule things. How much more when their lives are at stake, right? So that full animal bestial behavior, takes hold.
That's
If I
right.
could read this in the NL or in the GNT,
Gone.
it's Second Ezra 15, and I'll start in verse 17. I'll start in verse 18 in the GNT. It reads, "Because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Driven by famine and terrible suffering, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions." So without mercy, right? Whole families getting put to death, right, over a can of beans, man, right? As the brother DeBar like to say, man, people getting killed over ketchup packets, right?
Yep.
That's how severe, the times are gonna come, right? So events like this, you can't really take lightly because it sheds a light, on the mindset, of the people and how much more these things are about to intensify, man.
Yep. And two, right? We gotta realize with this, as the scriptures say, the Lord has created spirits for vengeance, man.
Hmm.
So these people are going to be psyched out, right? These people are going to be, they're already bugged out as is in a functioning society when the social contracts are done away with, when all the protection that has kept these people somewhat under control. How do you think this shit is going to play out, man?
Hmm.
These people are going to go batshit crazy, all right? But that's what our job is to do, right? Make it plain upon tables so that you have the foresight and understanding of the times that we're coming into to set yourself aright with Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All
That's
right.
right.
Let's read a little bit more in this article. Then we'll get another precept and then we'll read into another article and probably close out from there. But it goes on to say, as covered in a previous article, a global famine has already begun. The United Nations is telling us that 2.4 billion people already do not have enough to eat. That's like that's like a quarter of the planet. You see why brothers are so passionate and adamant about this devil being thrown out of his position of rulership. Brother, could you grab Sirach 10 and 8?
Hmm.
Or matter of fact, Sirach 10 and 4, Salakia.
This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10, and verse 4. It reads, "The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable."
Right, he's gonna set up one profitable because how is it that you Edomites who
Well,
cry,
I'll start in 3, Salaki.
come on, go ahead.
It says, "An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited."
Right. The Edomites, the ruling class Edomites, right? The self-proclaimed white race, are not fit to rule. It's evident. How is it
Mhm.
that a quarter of the population does not have enough food to eat? How? The earth was made to be able to withstand and populate people, right? But that's because this is an unwise king. He's not fit to rule in authority with how the earth is meant to be operated.
Sure.
Keep reading.
"The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and
Hmm.
and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable."
Right. And that's going to be who? The nation of Israel. All right. Starting with Yahweh Shai. All right. King David, the 144,000, and the rest of the nation. Right. That's going to be who's going to establish the proper way of how the earth is to be ruled, man. That is the profitable nation. Okay. Because under your pretense, we got 2.4 billion people that don't have enough food. Right. A global famine has already begun. How? You know, let's continue on in the
uh,
article. But those of us that are fortunate enough to live in the Western world simply do not understand how bad things have become on the other side of the planet. Supplies
Mm-hmm.
of food are getting tighter and tighter, but our countries have the resources to buy up enough supplies to feed our populations. So for now, we are seeing much higher prices, but we are not facing the imminent shortages like they are in Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and elsewhere. But once shortages do start happening here, will the US population be able to handle that? And the answer to that simply is no.
Oh,
These people that live in Babylon the Great, right? They don't see themselves having any troubles, right? They don't see themselves having to deal with anything that's detrimental or that's going to destroy the way how they function in society, right? They honestly think that Babylon the Great can never be done away with. Okay. So how much more facing any calamities or troubles or hardships, man?
mm-hmm.
Right? As people overseas in third world countries or should I say less wealthy nations, they call the issues that Babylonians have in America first world problems, where they just complain about shit that ain't really nothing to complain about, man.
Right.
Okay? But they're going to have to face this head on soon. But in the midst of all of this, the nation of Israel has an option to turn to in the midst of famine. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai.
Mm-hmm.
See, either your ass is going to go through this famine with no protection, or you're going to have Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai to provide for you, give you food, give you nourishment, water, the necessities for you to continue to live. Because, again, clearly Esau is not going to help you. Could you hold that Isaiah 65 and 13? I'm going to grab this right quick. In Isaiah 30 and 7. And the header of this chapter reads the pointless reliance on Egypt. Isaiah 30 and 7, for the Egyptians shall help in vain and to no purpose. Therefore I have cried concerning this, their strength is to sit still. Okay. And we know that the modern day Egyptian are the Edomites. All right. This is spiritual Egypt. So when all hell breaks loose, they're not going to be there to help provide for you or give you necessities and foods, right? They're going to be there to try and curtail your ass to take an implantable device to get rations. Okay, they're not going to be there to help you, man. And then even with that, there's no guarantee that you're going to get food.
Right. Right. Hey, you might get hipped up, man, and then you go to the fucking soup kitchen and they'll say, "Hey, man, we all out, man."
Should have got your shit earlier. What
Like, god
you
damn.
doing?
Like, but like you said, this is that order out of chaos, man. When this society, collapses, right? They're going to allow these things to take place in order to, as you said, implement that charagma, man,
That's
right?
right.
Present it as a form of salvation, you know, because they're gonna allow people to get desperate, right? They're gonna allow things to go completely, haywire, completely off the rails, and then these people are gonna see that charagma, that CBDC implantable device, as a means of salvation, as a means of escape, as a means of comfort, man.
Yep. You got
All
that,
right,
Isaiah.
with Isaiah. Okay. So Isaiah 65 and verse 13 it reads, "Therefore thus saith the Lord power, Behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed."
Yep. So the servants of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that serve him in truth and sincerity, don't fret. We'll be taken care of. The Lord will provide for us,
Hmm.
right? This is what comes with serving the Lord in truth and sincerity. Okay. You'll be taken care of in the heat of the battle,
Right.
right? When all of this shit comes to pass, when the famines hit, we're not gonna be concerned like the rest of these people where our next meal gonna come from because we know and have faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai that He'll provide, right?
Hmm.
This word is faithful and true. So it's no different with the understanding that the Lord will provide and take care of His.
That's right.
But for the other people, they ain't gonna have that opportunity. All right. Let's uh let's grab this last article. Um, we'll probably get second Ezra 16, and then we'll close out. But of course, as you see, this article from Time posted at the top of the year, there may not be enough food for everyone in 2023, and look who they have talking. The WEF. All right.
Hmm.
Let's go ahead and play this video. Let me know if you can hear the sound.
It's hard to believe that just a few years ago, there were only 80 million people marching to starvation around the world. That's starvation, not chronic hunger. Then it jumped to 135. Why? Man made conflict and climate shocks. That's before COVID. COVID comes along, just economic devastation, supply chain disruption around the world. The number goes from 135 to 276 million people. You think it can't get any worse. Then the breadbasket of the world is shut down, Ukraine. Now the longest bread lines in the world. The number has now jumped from 276 million people to 350 million people marching to starvation, not knowing where the next meal is coming from, because Ukraine alone grew enough food to feed 400 million people. Now, compounded with the fertilizer crisis, the fuel crisis, I could go on and on. It's all bubbling all around the world. The world is in serious trouble right now. When this whole war started, everybody was focused on the Eastern Front. And I was like, look, we got to get down to Odessa. We got to get those ports open. If we don't get these ports open, you're going to have hell on earth. And that's when I tweeted to Putin and said, if you don't open these ports, there will be famine across the world. And so we negotiated uh, with many friends coming to the table, because I don't care if you love or hate Russia. You got to have their food and their fertilizer. The world right now is in big demand of fertilizers and food. If we're not careful, we will have a shortage of food by the end of this year, or the food pricing will be so high, you'll have destabilization of nations that will result in mass migration, which will cost 1,000 times more than what we're talking about. We were expecting to announce famine in Somalia, for example, because they've had 4 or 5 back-to-back seasons of droughts, 40 years of unprecedented no rain. The United States, Germany, and other donors stepped up in magnificent ways, and we've been able to, I don't know if the right words avert famine, but we definitely have postponed it. But they are facing unprecedented climate impact. And not just them, we can go to other areas like the Somali region of Ethiopia, the entire Horn of Africa, parts of Kenya. And then you get into Western Africa having droughts and the impact. We're looking at food production in Africa being down. We're already looking at food production down in India, Argentina, the United States. I can go on and on. So this is a serious, serious issue. And who's going to pay the biggest price? The poorest of the poor. So if we don't.
And who is that? Who is the poorest of the poor?
Hmm.
You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans that comprise of the 12 tribes of Israel, man. They say it with subtlety, man. They're letting you know, look, you're gonna be impacted the most. All right. Yeah, this is gonna be hitting everybody, but remember, what is this? What is this time coined? Jacob's trouble. Okay. Could you grab matter of fact, let me grab this for you, bro. I'll read it for you. Because that's pretty much the article within itself, what the dude just spoke of.
Yeah.
Second Ezra 16. Second Ezra 16 and 19. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment.
Right. We're seeing these things take place, because of the wicked acts, that are being perpetrated throughout the earth, man. Right. Starting with you, you Israelites, and then you following after the lead of Esau, Edom, man. Right. You're following them, into destruction, and why you're seeing, famines take hold across the whole earth, man. That's why you see the area that was known as the Fertile Crescent, start to dry up, man. The whole Euphrates River drying up, right?
That's right.
Areas that were once fertile and full of life and lush, are desert and barren wastelands, man. Why? Because as we read in that what was it? In that Sirach 10, right?
Hmm.
We're seeing, the result of an unwise ruler, man. Right? It's leading to the death of the world, man.
That's right. Verse 20. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor
Hmm.
be always mindful of the scourges.
So the part of the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we've received is understanding, why these things are taking place, right? The majority of people, don't think about, the why, right? They don't think about their part that they've played in these causes, right? So they see the punishments going out, but they don't consider their ways, right? They don't consider amending their ways. They don't consider turning back to the Lord, right? Because that's the only way uh, to escape that judgment that's about to take place, man. And famine is a terrible judgment to take part in, right? You read in Leviticus 4th chapter, right? It talks about how those who are killed by the sword are better than those who are slain by the famine. Roughly paraphrase. Because it's a terrible way to go. To starve to death. Your body eating itself. At least the sword would be so-called quick. This is a slow, painful death, and that's part of why you're gonna see people clamor for this MOTB, man, because it's gonna be like that light at the end of the tunnel, man.
Yep. Continuing on. Salakia. Just lost my place. Bear with me one moment. Continuing on, verse 20, 21. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion.
And as we saw the Edomites say, they mitigated some of the famines, right? But uh, as he may mention, the famine, the lack of food might not hit, as a ultimate lack, and it's gonna hit as a increase in payments, man. That's where that hyperinflation is going to take place. You're paying
Yep.
$100 for a loaf of bread, $50 for a tube of toothpaste, right? And then you come back and it's $200 now, $300, because that's how hyperinflation works. It just continues to rapidly rise up, man. And it's because the famine. It's because of the lack of resources. And ultimately we understand that you know the Lord has these elites, hoarding these things over to themselves, right? Because there's things to give to the people. The famine wouldn't have to exist, if there was a righteous ruler in the land,
That's
right? But
right.
because we have a wicked ruler, we're seeing the people are suffering as a result, man.
That's right. Verse 22. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy.
Right. So that's gonna be the story of the mass majority of people, man. Right. You either die by the famine, you die by the sword, right?
Yep.
And then the missiles, man, ultimately, and the sword entails, any means of death, man. You get, attacked by. Actually, get was it Jeremiah 15 to famine? Let me see. I think it's you can start in verse 2,
God. This is Jeremiah chapter
but
15. Jeremiah 15 and verse 2. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, such as are for death to death, and such as are for sword to sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity.
Hmm. You
Mm-hmm.
can read three.
Verse 3, and I will appoint over them four kinds, saith the Lord Yahweh, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowls of the heaven, and the beast of the earth to devour and destroy.
And that's that. you know, that sword, man. Right, going back to that second Ezra 16 and 22. Where it said, "Many of them that dwell on the earth shall perish of famine," so lack of food, lack of water, right? And the other, so everybody else, those that escaped the famine, those of you who took the MOTB, right, and got your rations, got you a nice bologna sandwich, right? You got your rations, and you are going to perish by the sword. It said, "Those that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy." So whether
Right.
it be wild beasts, whether it be these roaming mobs of people, man, people getting beat to death, people getting shot and stabbed, all these manners of death that the Lord has set, to befall the land, right? It's inescapable, man. Judgment is inescapable unless you're of that elect number, man. As we read in Isaiah 65, right? Because his elect are going to be protected in that time, but the rest are going to face horrible, horrible judgments, man.
Yep. That's why we exhort our people so much, man. Right? Set yourself in order with the Lord. Anybody that's sensible, right? Yo, you better side with the right one.
Right,
Don't be a dummy and side with the Edomite, man. Clearly this is his judgment. Clearly this is the end of his society. Clearly, if you want to side hand in hand with the wicked, right? It tells you that the judgment you're not gonna go unpunished. You're gonna get thrusted through, along
hmm
with the damn devil, Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, excuse me, who is fucking up the planet Earth. What sense does
right.
that make, man? Choose wisely.
hmm
Anything else?
No, that was it. That was it.
God. Hey, well, Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson through the spirit, power, and mercy of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. We'll close out by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, double honors to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and rule well. Peace, blessings, and mercy to the house of David, Habayaf, Dawadali, of elect. Unto you we say Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.